Hi friends, we have the opportunity to go on now with program 39 of Telepathy and the Etheric Vehicle, starting from page 97. I just want to have a little segue here. Where the Tibetan says it would be of value if we now consider 3 points which are concerned with sensitivity to impression, with the construction of the resultant reservoir of thought, and the responsiveness to subsequent invocative appeals. Now, these are listed immediately below here. The process of registration and, I suppose, sensitivity to registration. Then the construction of the resultant reservoir of thought, and that would be the second of these 3 points, using a slightly different name, and then responsiveness to subsequent invocative appeals. Now, maybe he's using different words here to describe the 3 points, which he has immediately listed above. Here he has sensitivity to impression from other human beings, sensitivity to group impression, the passage of ideas from group to group, and sensitivity to hierarchical impression. And eventually the ability to be impressed by or from Shambhala to some extent. So we're going to consider these 3 points going on in program number 39. And he begins by saying, I would recall to your minds the knowledge that the aura which each of you has created around the central nucleus of your incarnated life, or soul. So that's another way of describing that the soul is the central nucleus of our incarnated life, is a fragment of the overshadowing soul. I wonder sometimes why he doesn't use the word overlighting, but maybe it's a more conventional word, overshadowing, and more familiar. So, the aura which each of you has created. All right. around the central nucleus of your incarnated life or soul is a fragment of the overshadowing soul which brought you into manifestation. So this fragment, we might call that the let's see, I will do that. We'll call that the soul in incarnation. So the overshadowing soul is something greater than the central nucleus of our incarnated life, or soul as it has entered into incarnation, and which brought you into manifestation. Now, which particular soul brought us into manifestation? And maybe we can call it the solar angel, yes, but it's a projection of the solar angel into the causal body, into the egoic lotus. And that it is which brought us into incarnation. The activity is within the egoic lotus, or causal body. The aura, this aura is, says the Tibetan, composed of the emanations of the etheric body, and this in its turn embodies three types of energy for which you are individually responsible. These three types, when added to the energy of prana, which composes the etheric vehicle, are what? Let's see what he says. So this is the aura that we are talking about, the aura, or the area composed of the emanations of the etheric body. So let's bring this at least into some sort of color. There we have it. The aura which each of you has created around the central nucleus of your incarnated life or soul is a fragment of the overshadowing soul which brought you into manifestation. Well, maybe we have the idea the old mantra having pervaded this entire universe, with a fragment of myself, I remain. So we have to determine here whether the aura is a fragment or the incarnated self or soul is a fragment. From one perspective, it looks like the aura is the fragment, and from another perspective, it appears that the incarnating self or soul is a fragment of the overshadowing soul, which brought us into incarnation, or brought you, it says, into manifestation. So we'll have to determine which it is. This aura is, as you well know, composed of emanations of the etheric body, because we have this kind of radiant light coming from the etheric body. It's not the latent physical light per se. It's something more that is discussed in cosmic fire. So, and then we have the aura embodying three types of energy. And these three types are what? The health aura. This is essentially physical and seems to be that which radiates from the etheric body. In the future, when we look for signs of health or disease in the individual, we will be looking at the etheric body and not so much at the resultant precipitation in the physical body as a result of what has occurred within the etheric. The astral aura, which is usually by far the most dominant factor, extensive and controlling, and we might say for most human beings, this is what the aura is consisting of. And the mental aura, which in most cases is in most cases relatively small, but which develops rapidly once the disciple takes his own development in hand, or once the polarisation of the personality is upon the mental plane. Well, as always with that word, polarisation, is he using it loosely, or is he being specific about a point of attainment which occurs after the second initiation? The okay, so let's just kind of mark these out. The mental aura, but it develops rapidly once the disciple takes his own development in hand, or once the polarisation of the personality is upon the mental plane, or may I suggest we can also use the word focus if we don't want to become confused about the specificity of the word polarization. The time will eventually come when the mental aura will obliterate, if I may use such an inadequate term, the emotional or astral aura. So, will obliterate the astral, emotional or astral aura, and then the soul quality of love will create a substitute so that the needed sensitivity does not entirely disappear, but is of a higher and far more acute nature. So love will be substituted for astrality when the mental aura becomes strong. I think what I'll do is, I'm sorry my voice is wavering just a little bit here, but okay, it will improve, maybe, as we go along. And and I think for part of this at least, I will substitute the yellow. The health aura, okay, we will put that in the purple, which is pretty correct. And then when we reach the astral, we'll put it in kind of a pink color. Could put it in a lighter blue, but let's just say this ought to do it. So we have the energy of prana, and then the health aura, the astral aura, and the mental aura. So this is, I guess the Tibetan is calling it a threefold aura. In this threefold aura, or more correctly, fourfold, if you count the etheric vehicle, every individual lives and moves and has his being. Okay. It is, the Tibetan says, whoop, there we go again, dropping it. Hopefully, yeah, doesn't look like too much damage was done. It is this living, vital aura which is the recording agent of all impressions, both objective and subjective. So we'll kind of mark that out. It is this, quote, agent of sensitive response, which the indwelling self has to control and use in order to register impression, or to direct etheric or mental impression out into the world of men. Okay. Okay. So let's see. I think we had here the idea of the recording agent, recording interpretations, and it is the aura which must be managed so that these recordings can occur. Again, what does he say? It is this threefold aura, or more correctly, fourfold. If you count the etheric vehicle, in which every individual, or in this threefold aura, every individual lives and moves and has his being. Now up here it tells us that the health aura is essentially physical. We don't know if he's including the etheric body as part of the physicality, because he seems to also add the etheric body here as if there were a threefold aura, which were physical, astral, and mental. And then adding the etheric body would be fourth. Well, it also seems to me that so much about the health aura is etheric. It is radiant fire. And is the source of the physical health, which we will discover more and more as the knowledge of the Aquarian age becomes ours. So it is this living, vital aura, which is the recording agent of all impressions. Both objective, that is, from the dense physical plane, or perhaps from the personality, and subjective, which, if it's being used in a way which is specific, means of the soul and beyond. The aura is the agent of sensitive response. So here he refers to the aura, and what I'll do is make this a little bit which the indwelling self, which is not the aura, has to control. Now that indwelling self, as I said, seems to be the soul, the mind, held steady in the light of the soul. It's coming from the mental plane. And the indwelling self has to control the aura to register impression, or to direct. See, here is registration, and here is direction. So what is it that controls the indwelling self, which is the higher soul focus? The indwelling self has to control and use in order to register impression. And the indwelling self might be called this might be called the soul in incarnation. See, where really is the seat of control? We know it has to have a soul vibration to be a true controller of the aura, so that the aura becomes a sufficient agent, recording agent, an agent of registration or registrated impression, and also a directing agent for distribution. Now, astral impression is purely selfish and individual, and though it may affect a man's surroundings, it is not directed as are the other energies registered. We are directing the higher energies. So I'll bring this into it's a mercurial color, yellow. But the astral aura is not really that helpful. In fact, it is a blocking and misleading condition, and thwarts sensitivity rather than promotes it. Even though some people say, well, I'm very astrally sensitive. Now the Tibetan might say, as he has elsewhere, that means you are thin-skinned and reactive. So it's not really the kind of sensitivity that is being searched for. Sometimes words are coming out here, and we have to know what he means. The aura is not the indwelling self, but the indwelling self registers, controls, directs the aura. Elsewhere, he seems to say that the term aura is much exaggerated and misused, and he tries to simplify the whole concept. But the aura is specifically, in this context, the agent of sensitive response. And then the question would arise, how is it that we control the aura? And how do we bring it into the condition where it does register impression and then subsequently direct for helpful purposes that which has been registered? Here, as I go back just a little bit, it definitely seems that the created aura is the fragment. But from another point of view, the soul in incarnation is fragmentary in relation to the higher soul or solar angel and the solar angel's projection into the causal body as the angel of the presence. So, as I say, we'll have to clarify that. And here the health aura is given essential physicality and not ethereality, which is added to it if we bring in the etheric body. Then we have a fourfoldness and not just a threefoldness. Okay. Well, we'll ponder. Now, getting back to the astral impression, and not these others, it is purely selfish, and the individual is purely selfish and individual. And though it may affect a man's surroundings, is not directed, as are the other energies registered. Now, I could do this in a couple of ways. Here he seems to be saying a lot about the aura, where elsewhere he seems to imply that too much is made of it, and the people are always exaggerating what it is. But here we have a different story. Okay. So what I'll do is, whoop. When I'm dealing with astrality, I could use the colors red, lighter blue, or maybe the pink or rose color. Here I'll use the lighter blue. It is the aura, says the Tibetan, which predominantly creates the effects which a person has upon his associates. It is not primarily his words which produce reactions, even though they are supposed to embody his reactions and his thinking, but which are, in reality, usually expressions of his emotional desires. So I'm going to make this one, we'll bring some Martian vibration into it. Interesting to know that we affect each other primarily through the aura, and not just through words. Was it Ralph Waldo Emerson that said, "What you are is screaming so loudly that I cannot hear what you are saying"? And we can see the relation of that statement. It's probably quite close to the original, to what is being said here, that the aura predominantly creates the effects which a person has upon his associates. So, take a moment out, and how would you define what it is you do, or what it is your aura does that affects your associates? How are they affected by you, regardless of what you say? Okay. So the words are predominantly, in reality, usually expressions of emotional desires. Now, the more the Tibetan describes the situation, the simpler it should become for us. Yes, it is complicated when you just look at one point of view, but he seems to carry forward several points of view, which in combination hopefully will simplify. So just think, there you are encountering another individual, encountering another group, and your aura is what's making the impact. The aura is, built up of impressions over many years. The aura creates the effects which we have upon our associates. So did you ever wonder why you have that certain reactions upon people, or they react to you in a certain way, even though you were quite sure that you spoke appropriately? It's something else. It's your basic vibration. which has been building up since the time of individualization, and is of all different qualities, presumed to advance in quality as we move forward upon the path. So let's look for generalizations from the Tibetan which begin to simplify the many things that he has been saying in this book. He goes on to say, all of us, therefore, carry around with us, may I suggest that's kind of a homely phrase. We carry around with us a subjective mechanism, which is a true and perfect picture of our peculiar point in evolution. And may I suggest that the Tibetan reads, among other things, the aura. He can read your chakric triangles. He can read your causal development. But this accumulation of thought substance, this radiation, you might say, built around a central nucleus, which I have good reason to think is the soul in incarnation. This is what he can read, and then know with quite a bit of certainty what are the problems existing within your life as you are living it. So we carry around the subjective mechanism, which is a true and perfect picture of our peculiar point in evolution. And then let's see what the Tibetan says. I just started elaborating on the idea. It is the aura which a master watches, and this is the factor of major importance in the life of the disciple. So that is a great simplification. It is the aura which the master watches. And maybe not alone, not the only thing he watches, but it is a significant object of attention when he seeks to evaluate how to deal with you, with me, telepathically, and elevatorally, if I can use such a strange word, how to lift us, how to say the truth to us so that we will take it in and not quit because of so-called hurt feelings, which is a hyper sensitivity in the astral vehicle. The light of the soul, the Tibetan says, the light of the soul within the aura and the condition of the various aspects of the aura indicate whether or not the disciple is nearing the path of discipleship. Well, the Master will not waste his time dealing with someone who is not even approaching the path of discipleship. So, before discipleship begins, something of the light of the soul must be incorporated within the aura. And the condition of the various aspects of the aura also. Indicate whether or not the disciple is nearing the path of discipleship. Now, before that time, there are other methods of taking care of the disciple. And we have to rely also upon that projection of the solar angel within the egoic lotus to supervise some kind of progress of the aspirant until he becomes ready for discipleship, ready in a way for transference onto the fixed cross via, we have been told, the sign Pisces. See, the law of economy, the third cosmic law, is always going to be employed so that there is no waste of time, waste of attention, waste of effort, because that would compromise the elevation of the whole, whether it's a community, a group, a community, a nation, or humanity as a whole. The masters do not waste their time. Now, maybe I have a speculation here that DK began with high hopes, saying, look, I'm not going to talk about your personality. But when he began to observe the rather wretched state of the personalities of the individuals that he had taken on for training. He had to make sure the foundation was in a better condition. Otherwise, the whole thing would come tumbling down. So DK goes on to say, as the emotional reactions lessen, may I add, because they definitely indicate an earlier stage than the desirable stage of the true student of esotericism, as the emotional reactions lessen and the mental apparatus clarifies, and may I suggest that we watch for signs of clarification as we are reading and pondering a book like this. Then going on with the Tibetan, the progress of the aspirant can be exactly noted. Yeah. You see, the Tibetan is not, as it were, shooting in the dark. He's not depending upon Alice Bailey to tell him what is the condition of this or that disciple. I mean, she may fill in certain details that she knows from first-hand contact, but in general, it is the Tibetan's assessment of the individual through the lessening of that individual's emotional reactions and through the clarification of the mental apparatus, which gives the signal about the exact condition in which that aspirant finds himself or herself. Now, this next seems rather obvious in a way, but watch out when something seems obvious. It may be the result of superficial reading. Why is the Tibetan even bothering saying this? I would have you distinguish, he says, carefully, between the astral and mental bodies and that which they emanate. The bodies, so-called, maybe we could call them something else, the vehicles of expression, perhaps, the fields, perhaps, the bodies, so-called, says the Tibetan, are substantial in nature. The aura is essentially radiatory and extends from each substantial vehicle in every direction, and this is a point which should be most carefully noted, and I think we can all sense the importance of the statement I just read. The bodies, so-called, the fields, the energy fields, the collection of matter of a certain vibration. I guess there are a number of ways to look at these bodies. The bodies, but they are so-called as bodies, are substantial in nature. They are, each of them, substantial to a vehicle or a field which is vibrating at a lower state. Maybe the physical body is excluded from that, but we can't be sure because there are grades of matter which are even lower than what we normally call the physical. And radiation, the aura is essentially radiatory and extends from each substantial vehicle in every direction. And this is a point to be most carefully noted. Well, I don't know that there's a particular color here, but essentially radiatory. So, the aura radiates. The collection of substance energy radiates in all directions and extends from each substantial vehicle in every direction, and this has to be noted. This has to be noted. And I'll, when he gives kind of a warning like that, and not only noted, but most carefully noted, I think we begin to realize that the aura is telling those who can read it what we really are. Okay. Now, going on a bit, the problem, says the Tibetan, the problem of the aspirant as he engenders his magnetic aura is himself to withdraw and thus lessen the extent of the power of the astral aura and extend and increase the potency of the mental aura. So there is one task, and here is another. Now DK is just the kind of master who can suggest how this can be done. We become less emotional, less deluded, less distorted in our feelings and their orientation, and the mental aura begins, what did he say, to obliterate, even though it wasn't the perfect word, but to obliterate the astral aura. I have a friend who said, well, if you find yourself getting emotional over this issue, then it is because, well, it is an issue for you, and it's probably filled with glamour. So, the disciple has to withdraw, become more mental, but still adequately loving to be sensitive. Now, let's remember that, otherwise we get kind of the cold fish syndrome, where a person looks at everything only mentally and thereby has eliminated the necessary sensitivity to keep building and nurturing the aura. So, this is the work. It should be remembered that the large majority of aspirants are definitely polarized in the astral nature. And that therefore their problem is to achieve a different polarization, or, as I've said, maybe the word has to be focus. It depends on how specifically the term polarization is being used. Go to Rays and the Initiations, where the sixth initiation is discussed, and you will see the specific use of the word polarization. So, anyway, from DK, most aspirants are definitely polarized in the astral nature, and that, therefore, their problem is to achieve a different polarization and to become focused upon the mental plane. This takes time and vast effort. We will see that those who were individualized on the moon chain or in the first major solar system have had that kind of time to build up the mental focus. And in some cases, of course, more advanced, the technical meaning of polarization. So let's bring this in, that the large majority, and obviously we have to ask, does that mean we ourselves? To whom does this apply? Those that are definitely, as he says, polarized in the astral nature. And their problem is to achieve a different type. And this polarization, and this takes time and vast effort. Vast effort. Eventually, well, let me get that. The problem is to achieve a different polarization and to become focused on the mental plane. This will take time. And in the study of occultism and learning to meditate occultly, the factor of time, even though from the philosophical point of view he might say it doesn't exist, but the factor of time in the ordinary sense has to be taken deeply into consideration. Eventually, as mentioned above, re-mentioning, the radiation of the soul is substituted in place of the hitherto emotional activity of the aspirant. This emanation is, in reality, a radiation of the love petals of the egoic lotus. So I'll kind of put that in the second aspect color. And the radiation of the soul is substituted in place of the emotional activity, and that soul radiation, now he starts to get specific, is from the love petals, or the second tier of petals in the egoic lotus, which is called, their development is called the Hall of Learning. The Hall of Learning. Okay. The moment an aspirant begins to work consciously at his own unfoldment and to consider and deal with the aura with which he is equipped, he then passes through 3 stages during his progress on the path of return. Well, that's going to be this little program will necessarily conclude, because the glamour program is quite different, but coming up. And I'll just make that bold. So we are, sorry for my quavering voice here. We're kind of on page 99. Yeah, we are on page 99. And here we go, as usual. Doing just a couple of pages. But such is the nature of this abstruse book abstrusely delivered that we had better be patient. We had better be patient. Of course, when you talk to an Aries person like myself, that kind of patience doesn't come easily. And here we are, and we have completed program 39, just a little bit. It's not a long program. Today is the 3rd of December, and we've gone from 97 to 99, and we'll start program 40 when I can, of Telepathy and the Etheric Vehicle from page 99. Okay, so that should do it, and I'll try to send this out if I have time right now to do so. I'm just not sure that I do have time, but for someone who believes in the philosophical non-existence of time, I certainly find myself much bound by it. Okay. So, let's see how fast, without creating dire mistakes, I can go. And this is, whoa. Sort of complete in a smaller form, if that is possible. So that's one thing. And then if I can bring in telepathy and the etheric vehicle, and see, that's not going to be it. But one of them should be it. I guess the thing to do is bring in number 38. I'll just pause here for a moment.